So today we're going to talk about the entrepreneurial mindset. And we're going to learn various ways to overcome the blocks and the limitations that exist up in this old thing up here. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story, and through my entrepreneurial journey, share some of the lessons that I've learned along the way that helped me overcome these blocks. And then we're going to do some super fun things like killing our inner critic and learning to overcome fears. How does that sound?
Amazing.
Awesome! And you were the most positive person here, and I fucking love it. Thank you. So let's all just embrace that open positivity. It's a place to play, a place to learn, a place to grow, and we're all gonna go on an adventure together. So let's start with my own story. So as a kid, I was always interested in art and science. And people would tell me, how could you do both? How can you be good at science and be good at art? Those two things are different. And I never really understood that. To me, there was a way to intersect and marry between these two, and that's always what I was seeking. I was also from a very entrepreneurial family. So my dad was in real estate, my mom was an artist, so I would see people who would just imagine what they wanted to view in the world and make it. My mom would see a blank canvas, I'd go up to her studio, there'd be a blank canvas there, I'd come back 3 hours later, and there was this amazing work of art. This beautiful, creative experience of color, an explosion of design that would just lift your spirits. And so from her, I learned on any blank canvas, you can imagine what you want to see and you can make it happen. From my dad, I learned you can start your own business. You don't need to work for anyone else. I thought it was totally crazy that people give most of their life to somebody else's labor and somebody else's vision to make shitty things that don't really matter. And so I wanted to make something that was really going to make the world amazing. It took me a long time to figure out what it was, and I kind of wormed my way along to find it. So as a teenager, I loved fashion, and I started to play around with creating clothing. And one day I had a t-shirt that I cut a hole in the middle of, and I said, wow, I love this, and somebody else is gonna love it too. So I took a bunch of my shirts down to Queen Street in Toronto here, and I went from store to store to store saying, would you like to take my designs? And probably 8 or 9 stores said, no, you're 16 years old, what do you think you're doing? They didn't say that, they probably were thinking it. Luckily, I could not hear their thoughts. And finally, the 9th or 10th store said, yeah, this is awesome. We'll take your shirts on consignment. I didn't know what consignment meant at that point, but I learned very quickly, and all of a sudden, I was a clothing designer. At the same time, I had a job in a research laboratory, a co-op position doing embryonic stem cell research on knockout mice when I was about 17. And I continued to play between these worlds of art and science. When I was 19, I had an internship at the Club Monaco Design Studios, and so I was spending the summer in New York. So I took my little line, which had expanded by then, and I went store by store by store so excitedly in New York City, saying, these are my designs. Do you want them in your store? And 48 people said no, and it didn't matter to me. I just went from store to store to store, knowing these things were cool, and if somebody said no, it wasn't because what I was doing was wrong, it's because it didn't gel with them, and that was totally fine. 49th store said yes, 50th store said yes, and all of a sudden, I was a designer in New York City. So from that I learned, see beyond the no. Somebody might give you a no, but that's only about where they're at. It's only about how limited they see it. It's only about what fits with them at that moment. And there is somebody or something out there that whatever you are making is going to resonate with. So do not let no stop you. So after my experience as a clothing designer, I opened a clothing store. And I kept thinking about the brain, that the brain was what I really wanted to understand. So as an artist, my mom would help you see the world in a different way. Artists help you change the way you perceive the world. And I knew that through the brain, we could play with those perceptions in ways that were going to be even more meaningful. Art is meaningful too, but there are other ways to play with these perceptions in meaningful ways. So I started to become fascinated with brainwaves. Brainwaves is something that had real technical information about your brain happening and also seemed to have this sort of emotional or noumenal quality. It was energy coming off your head. And I began collaborating with Dr. Steve Mann. Steve is the accredited inventor of the wearable computer. He's the guy who literally invented Google Glass before Google did. And he had this early brain-computer interface system that he had made at MIT. And so we started to create concerts where you could make music with your mind. You'd have a single EEG lead on the back of your head, and by shifting your brain state, by focusing or relaxing, you could actually change the music in the room around you. And I stood back and I said, oh my God, we are literally interacting with the world directly with our brain. And the world needs to know about this. And I think this is totally commercializable. I can totally see taking this out of the lab and building a product and a business. So over the next few years, myself and my co-founders, Chris Amity, who's one of Steve's master's students, and like the most amazing engineer and artist combination you will ever meet. And Trevor Coleman, who was my boyfriend at the time's best friend, and he was really into promotions and management, and he ran club nights and would make them super cool. He just knew how to make things that people loved. Over time, the three of us would get together in Trevor's basement, building business plans for a business that didn't yet exist, and figuring what we'd do with the technology that was not yet like ripe for prime time. So we started to do crazy things like show people the power of their brain to control physical objects. And in Steve's lab, we made the levitating chair. So as you would relax in this chair, you'd have an electrode on the back of your head, you would relax, it would sense the increase in your alpha brainwave state, and it would cause the chair to rise to the ceiling. This was due to the Canadian Tire winch that Chris and I bought and rigged inside of Steve's ceiling tiles. And as this thing rose up, it would go like, "Arr!" And it was absolutely terrifying. "Arr!" But we'd rig the lights and the music to also change with your brain state, so it was also magical, and it would go like, as you would rise to the sky. And we stood back and said, wow, this is extraordinary. Like, we can move physical objects. Okay, so now what's the next thing we can teach people to do with their brains? Well, this was now 2009, and the Olympics were coming to Canada the next year. So we envisioned a project where people in Vancouver, where the Olympics was going to be, could control the lights on the CN Tower, the Canadian Parliament buildings, and Niagara Falls with their brain from across the country. And then we took it to somebody that we knew in the government and said, hey, person in the government, we have a proposal with a like one-page thing that I ripped off the internet. Could we talk to someone in the government about the Olympics? And somehow the proposal got in, and we got a call back, an email back a few weeks later saying, yes, we love it. Can you do it in the Ontario colors? And that sort of began the, I should back up. Actually, the proposal that we made was to control lights on Olympic rings. And once we started engaging with the government, they actually changed this project to be controlling the lights on these massive icons. Now, at that point, we were 3 people in a basement with this insane project for the Olympics on a limited time frame, on a limited budget, with a technology that we really didn't even know worked, and we had to make it work for the entire Olympics. So we hired everybody that we could find, pulled in all of our friends. Luckily, Chris was an engineering scientist, so we had amazing engineers and computer programmers. My boyfriend at the time, who's now my husband, was a designer, so he was able to design the lighting sequence on the CN Tower. And somehow, over the 17 days of the Olympics, created something where 7,000 people could individually interact with these massive icons directly with their brain and actually have it work. That people could actually have understand the power of their own minds to project across the country and be able to control something at a distance. So from there, we learned an interesting story. Not just the power of technology to be able to do amazing things, but the power of people to be able to do extraordinary things when you have a massive vision. When you're able to say, I see that this can happen. It may seem crazy, it may seem impossible, it may seem like something that somebody else would say, this is ridiculous, how could you ever think of doing it? But we were able to stand there and say, we can see this. And even though it seems well beyond our grasp, we can figure out the pathway to get there. And we pulled together people that we knew from all sorts of different disciplines. And it frankly didn't matter that I was founding a company to control people, didn't matter that I was founding a company to let people control stuff with their brains and I wasn't a computer programmer or an engineer. It didn't matter that we needed to fundraise for this and do sales and I wasn't naturally a fundraiser, I didn't have a business background. We were able to pull in the people that we needed to fill the spots that we needed. So when you think about your own businesses and what you want to create, don't be worried about what you can't do. Rather look to people around you who can do it, or people who can learn to do it. When I started this company, I really did not have a background in business. I went to school for neuroscience, but certainly did not have a business degree, and I realized I needed to raise money, because that's what you do as a startup. So I went to Mars, they taught me how to pitch, and eventually I was able to raise millions and millions and millions of dollars, $18.7 million, from VC funders, looking like me, with crazy hippie long hair, often wearing pink, and stand in a VC's office in Silicon Valley and pitch my vision and what we're going to accomplish, and have them believe me, trust me, know that we could fulfill and give us the cash to do it. So never feel held back by what you don't know. So often when we begin projects, it's like, oh man, that's gonna be impossible. Or, oh, I don't know how to do that. Or like, wow, that's just so beyond me. Don't let that hold you back. Don't let that scare you. Because if you see clearly that there's a need that you want to fulfill, you will step towards it. You'll talk to people, start sharing your ideas, and bring people along on your journey who can help you fulfill it. So this is another serious fallacy that people have. They're always like, I can't tell anybody about my idea. I go to advise a startup and they're like, okay, we have this really good idea, but can we even tell you? People are always afraid that somebody's gonna steal their idea. This is ridiculous. So if you are an entrepreneur and you have a vision and you have something you wanna create, you are lying awake, obsessing about it. You're thinking about it endlessly. And you still haven't really done it. You still haven't been able to successfully execute that thing. The chances are that somebody that you randomly tell who's not in that business, who has no idea, who's doing something else in their life is gonna all of a sudden take and steal your idea and be able to mobilize people and create a whole company and send it out to market is chances are pretty limited. So don't be afraid to talk about what you're doing. It's through talking about it that you bring people on board with your ideas. You hear the yeses, you get the energy from the crowd. You also get feedback. You get people telling you and tweaking what doesn't work. And so listen for those yeses to energize you and engage people to move it forward. Also listen to those no's and I don't knows and hmms, not to hold you back, not to tell you you shouldn't do it, but to help you navigate and gracefully swim to find the right fit with your product and the market. So coming back to our idea, we were like, we're gonna control computers with our mind and it's gonna be amazing. And there's gonna be like thought-controlled toasters and slot cars and all the stuff that we made that we thought-controlled. We have a thought-controlled beer tap. It's amazing, but it's also not amazing. It's super fun at parties. Thought-controlled toaster is like, we're gonna make a thought-controlled toaster, it's gonna be great. And you focus on the toaster, and as you focus on it, the element heats up, and then the toast pops when you clench your jaw. And it's like, that's really not very practical at all. And so we moved from recognizing that although it was amazing to control the world outside of you, as we were doing this process of trying to thought control stuff, what we were actually doing was learning to control our own thoughts. In order to learn to control this system, you needed to focus. You needed to relax. You were getting feedback on the state of your mind. And we stood back and said, wow, that's the powerful part. Not controlling the world outside you, but controlling the world inside you. The opportunity to actually open up a window onto the brain to see what's going on inside, to get feedback on that brain state. That is where the power is. And so we were able to take the device that we were building and recognize that the best way we could probably apply it was to help people meditate. Now that might seem kind of counterintuitive, like what's this meditation thing? Isn't meditation like spooky and woo-woo? Well, back when we were doing this, like in 2010, 2011, meditation was not really that well understood. It was not yet a market phenomenon. Everybody was like, yes, I need to meditate. We'd go around telling people we're building a cognitive trainer for your brain. And we had like pictures of brains with muscles being like, it's gonna strengthen your attention. And occasionally a VC would go like, isn't this like meditation? And we'd be like, yes, do you meditate? And they'd be like, yes, we do. And we're like, yes, this is meditation. And we knew deep within ourselves that whatever we were doing, if we were able to spread meditation in the world, we would be doing good for humankind. We believe so deeply in the power of the tool of meditation to be able to shift and move and help people grow. We knew that even if this technology didn't work, which thankfully it really did, we would be able to do something right for the world by helping people meditate. And that brings me to another point about the things that we build. Only do things that are good. We have so much time, we have so much energy, we have so much potential. If you waste a moment of it doing something that's totally useless, or even worse, deleterious for the world, why? There are plenty of ways to make money, and there are plenty of ways to make money that are also great for the world. So if you really want to do something, just ask yourself, is this bringing the world in a positive direction or not so much? And just only align to what is positive, because that's where you're really going to find the power. That's where people are going to come on board and say, yes, this is amazing. I want to support you. Yes, I need to see this. That's the way that we all can, individually and together, shift the world in a better place. So we're like, okay, we are building this meditation tool, and meditation is going to totally rock your world. So let me digress for a couple moments to tell you why meditation rocks your world, because it deeply has to do with this entrepreneurial talk and how meditation can help you overcome your limitations. So, in a basic focused attention meditation, what you do is you focus your attention on your breath, your mind begins to wander, you notice it, and you return. This is the basis of focused attention meditation. As you do this, some really amazing things happen. Once, as your mind begins to wander, you notice it, and then you take your mind off that wandering thought and bring it back to the neutral object, your breath. What you're doing is you're recognizing that you have control over your thoughts. So most of us just kind of exist in this space where our thoughts are thinking us. Our brain's just kind of going, and it's filled with stuff that's constantly going, and you just assume that that's you, and you just assume that that's what's supposed to be happening in your mind. The moment you recognize that you can actually take your mind off of its own wandering thoughts, take your mind off of the thought train and put it somewhere else, you've done something extraordinary. You've gained control over your own mental space. So this is powerful because you can take your mind off of your negative thoughts. Often those wandering thoughts are negative thoughts. So you can take your mind off of there and put it onto something neutral. This is also powerful because once you take your mind off those negative wandering thoughts, you recognize that you are not your thoughts. Whoa, all that shit going on constantly in your head, you are not your thoughts. You can change your relationship to them. You can choose the contents of your own mental space. And you can choose what they say about you. Amazing. So you can get your mind off the thought train. The next thing you can help yourself do is get off the emotional roller coaster. So as you meditate, it's the same process. You're putting your mind on a neutral object, your mind wanders, you notice it, you return. You do the same thing with your emotions. So you start to see an emotion arise, and as an emotion arises, rather than like feeling the emotion arise and then getting a whole bunch of thinking associated with it and being like, oh shit, I'm thinking all of these things. Oh, I really failed. I really, really failed. You feel the failure. You think about the failure. You feel the failure. That is being on the emotional roller coaster. That does not serve us very well. With the meditation practice, what you learn to do is to experience those thoughts simply as sensations. So I'm feeling the sensation of weirdness in my body. I'm feeling the sensation of tightness in my chest. But they don't have to spiral into thoughts, which then spiral into more feelings, which spiral into thoughts. So you get off the emotional roller coaster by breaking the relationship between your thoughts and your feelings. So you can experience the world without having it take you off course. So let's enter Muse. So we all just heard that meditation is amazing. There's over 1,000 published studies demonstrating meditation's ability to improve your GRE scores, improve your relationships, improve your productivity, improve your workplace performance, and on and on and on and on and on. But if meditation is so amazing, why don't more people do it? Well, frankly, meditation is hard to do. You sit there, and if you don't know how to meditate, you actually just think your mind's supposed to go blank, and you sit there waiting for your mind to go blank. It never does. My mind's really not going blank. Shit. And your brain's bouncing all over the place, and you're like, oh my God, this is not for me. Maybe it's for my sister in her Lululemon yoga pants, but it's not for me. And if you do know how to meditate, you sit there, and your mind begins to wander, and it's like 1, 2, 3 minutes, and you're on the grocery list, and you're like, right, I'm supposed to be meditating, bring back my thoughts. Oh, I'm supposed to be meditating, bring back my thoughts. And so most people don't know what's supposed to be going on in your mind while you meditate. So we created Muse as a meditation device to give you real-time feedback on your brain while you meditate, to let you know when your mind is wandering, and to bring you back to calm, focused attention. And the metaphor we use is your mind is like the weather. So when you're thinking, distracted, ruminating, you hear it is stormy. And as you bring yourself back down to quiet, focused attention, you quiet the storms. So it's this very simple paradigm that really lets you know what's going on inside your mind, and then teaches you the skill of metacognition. So metacognition is the awareness of your own thinking, the ability to rise above and actually see what's going on inside your own mind and not get caught up on those thought trains or those emotional roller coasters. So as a neuroscientist, I'd be totally remiss if I didn't tell you about all the cool ways that meditation changes your brain. Y'all want to hear? Yeah! All right, so fact 1, as you age, your prefrontal cortex thins. So the prefrontal cortex is this part of your brain. It is the attentional control center of your brain. It's the thing that separates us from other beings. It is our ability to attend, to focus, to organize our thoughts. So bad news, as you age, your prefrontal cortex thins. Good news, if you're able to maintain a long-term meditation practice, you can maintain the thickness of your prefrontal cortex. And in one study by Dr. Sarah Lazar, she had one person with a prefrontal cortex thickness of a 23-year-old who was actually a 50-year-old long-term meditator. So prefrontal cortex maintenance, pretty awesome. You also are able to quiet your amygdala. So the amygdala is a little part of your brain deep in here that's responsible for your fight or flight. So when something triggers you and you start to feel that little sensation, that is your amygdala speaking. Just gonna grab a sip of water. Also, hello to all our newcomers back there. So the amygdala is the fight or flight center of our brain. Now, back in the day when we lived in a really scary environment and there were snakes and tigers, not that we ever actually lived with tigers, but you know what I mean, there's shit that wanted to get you. Then we had this amygdala that was tightly tuned to our environment and always scanning for danger, so it was really on high, and it needed to be to preserve us. Now we live in these beautiful, wonderful, cushy lives where things really aren't so scary anymore in our immediate universe. And we're really lucky for that. But our amygdala still has this behavior of wanting to scan for danger. So instead of looking for snakes and tigers, it looks for, that person's looking at me funny, maybe they don't like me. Oh, I didn't get my pants dry cleaned before this meeting. Oh no, I'm so embarrassed. Our amygdala has turned to all of these really minor, insignificant things and causes significant levels of distress as a result of it. So in a meditation practice, what you learn to do is quiet that amygdala. And actually, in a long-term meditator, you see a decrease in amygdala activation, and even in some long-term meditators, a decrease in the size of the amygdala. So the area itself is beginning to truly downregulate. The meditation is kind of like this dance between the prefrontal cortex, the parent, and the amygdala, the freaking out little child. I have a 3-year-old, I totally understand freaking out children. And so in meditation, what your prefrontal cortex is doing is saying, amygdala, shh, it's okay. Shh, we don't have to react that way. Shh, there's another option. And so your amygdala will begin to flare, as all of ours do, and your prefrontal cortex will step in with your meditation practice, which is strengthened it nicely through your focused attention training, and say, shh, amygdala, it's okay. And if you do this over and over and over and over and over again, it begins to get it, and it begins to learn. Let me tell you, year 2 to 3 of telling my son, please don't run away from me, please come back, shh, it's okay, really didn't make any difference. All of a sudden in year 3, he's getting it and he comes back. It's like watching this dynamic play out all over again. So one of the most important things that this then teaches you to do is to be able to sit with discomfort. The ability to sit with discomfort probably predicts your success in life. It's a big phrase, like take a moment and let that sink in. Your ability to sit with discomfort probably predicts your success in life. So in any field, we begin to approach something, and as soon as it gets hard or weird or bad or insecure, we feel the feeling of it, the discomfort, and that often causes us to pull back and pull away because we just don't want to experience the discomfort. And so we think like, there's this thing I really want to do, or this like party I want to go to, or this person I want to talk to, or this career move I want to make, or this piece of art that I really want to create. And then you get to the party or the blank canvas or the job interview and you're like, this is really scary. I think I should just not do this right now. So much easier. Yep, let's just not do this right now. That was a great idea, Ariel. Thanks for not doing it right now. And then you don't move forward. You don't succeed. You don't see what's on the other side. So our ability to actually sit with the discomfort of stuff that's coming up in the moment, experience it, feel it a sensation, not make stories about it, and take the step to get to the other side, predicts your success in life. That is the ability to actually look at a blank canvas or a blank Word document and say, oh no, what am I supposed to be writing? And then actually sit down and do it and make the strokes, make the paintbrush strokes, the keystrokes, start the document, get into the flow. And once you get over the threshold and you're into the flow, then it's easy. But you have to have the courage to get there. So the next time you feel that discomfort, the next time you're like, oh, I'm feeling the discomfort, give yourself the opportunity to sit with it. Do whatever you need to do to get yourself to the other side of that. Deep breathe, meditate, focus on your breath, pull up a kitten video, whatever you need to do to help yourself regulate, to get to the other side, that is the thing that's going to help you succeed. To become the artist, to make the amazing work, to push deeper, to go further, to take the risks, to be the shining, awesome human that you are. So today's lesson was, anybody want to repeat it? Come on, guys, this is your moment to feel the discomfort and do it anyways. Audience participation, feel the discomfort, shout it out. You're going to sit with discomfort and do it anyway. Thank you. Everyone else will have the opportunity to practice that, I'm sure, at many more moments in your life throughout the rest of your day. So I have a super useful, just get a sip of water. So I have a very useful lesson for everybody today. We are going to kill our inner critic. How does that sound? Amazing. Awesome, I've got some buy-in for sure. So the inner critic is that voice in your head that's always telling you that you're doing wrong. It's that voice in your head that's constantly saying, oh, you're not doing it right. Oh, your hair looks stupid. Oh, that meeting. And it's a voice that we think that we need, so we hold on to it because we feel like it pushes us forward, but it really does not. It is the thing that actually holds us back and it limits us. So today we're gonna do a little bit exercise to actually learn to kill that inner critic. Everyone ready? Awesome. So, I want you to imagine that you are walking down the street with your best friend. Best friend, kid, loved one, someone you really care about. Sound good? Hold that for a moment. Before we go there, you're now going to think about something your inner critic told you today. For me, it's always telling me my hair looks stupid. That's actually my insecurity. I'm like, my hair, is there flyaways? Think about something that it told you. Has everybody got it? Okay. So now you're gonna walk down the street with your best friend and have a stranger come up to them and tell your best friend the same thing that your inner critic told you today. Yeah. So for me, I'm walking down the street and some stranger comes up to my best friend and tells her hair looks stupid. So how does it feel when you hear that directed to your best friend? Angry, yeah. If some dude told my best friend her hair looks stupid, I'd be like, come on. You want to be angry, you'd be frustrated, you'd be pushing back, you'd be defending her. However, we constantly have this little voice inside of our head telling us these negative things all the time, and we just let it ride. We just let it be passive. We don't defend, even though we'd be so angry for our loved one. So today, we're going to give our little critics, inner critics, a little piece of our mind. So, got a relatively blank wall in front of me. I'll close the door here so we've got more space. Throw your inner critic up on the wall. So for some people, it might be a black cloud. It might be a gremlin. It might be a little monster. Don't let it be you. So throw an image of your inner critic up here. And if you can't think of something, I'll give you a couple seconds. Okay, and if you can't think of something, don't worry about it. Just use a gray cloud. So throw that gray cloud up there, throw your inner critic up there. Now we're gonna take our hands out, hold it in front of your little image, and squish it. And squish it. Yes. How does that feel?
Amazing.
Yeah, it's got some relief there. All right, so we've externalized it and now we have control over it. You have control over your inner critic. You don't need to listen to the things that it tells you. So the next thing we're gonna do, and you can do it in your head or out loud, is remember how angry you were at that stupid jerk who told something awful to your best friend? We're gonna direct that anger at your inner critic. So for me, I would look at him and say, you jerk! Her hair is fine. You jerk, get over it. Out, no, no, no. Yell at him, let it out. So on the count of 3, you're all gonna have the opportunity to let her have it, to your inner critic. All right? 1, 2, 3. You jerk! No! No! Get lost, get out of here, scram, get out of town.
We did it in our heads.
I totally got it. I understood. I was modeling for you. I didn't expect people to follow. How does that feel? Yeah. All right, now just for good measure, go and squish them once more. Awesome. So this is a tool that you can use anytime. Anytime you hear that little voice in your head, you have the opportunity to take it, put it on the wall, tell it to get lost, F off, get out of here, get out of town, and make it smaller. Squish it, kick it away. So how we deal with the voices in our head is fundamental to how we succeed. Because these voices in our head are typically telling us things that are pretty awful most of the time. So the next time you hear that voice in your head telling you you're not good enough, you did it wrong, it was bad, just tell it to get lost. Because if I could wave a magic wand and make the world better, what I would want to do is let every single person know and understand that we are all amazing, glorious, phenomenal, fully capable human beings, and that the voices in our head that tell us anything otherwise are wrong. Thank you. Awesome. All right, who has questions? Yes?
Did that CN Tower, that happen?
It happened. Yeah, over the 17 days of the Olympics, 7,000 people got to individually control the lights on the CN Tower, Canadian Parliament buildings, or Niagara Falls. Yeah. And it was the most stressful thing we'd ever done, and it was totally worth it. Other questions? Yes?
Yeah, you said that meditation's the focus now, but are there any physical projects that you're still looking to do?
So VR is a place that we're still really interested in, and people actually use Muse with VR. So we've had a number of developers that have created beautiful VR experiences using Muse.
Describe the your experience, or is that more of a...
No, so one of them was created by Android Jones Microdose. I don't know if any of you know his work, but it's amazing. And that was like a paint experience in VR, and your brain would control the paint environment. In the back of the room, we have Alex McLeod, who super rocks. And Alex is an extraordinary artist, and one of the very, very first things we did back in 2013, before AR, VR, 3D was really a thing, like just at the rise of 3D, Alex created this amazing environment where the different aspects of the environment changed with your brain state, and you would see it in real 3D. So like birds would fly when you relaxed, it would snow as you would focus, the clouds would jump up and down based on your facial expressions. It was awesome. So, yeah. Other questions?
Given that your product is changing or has the potential to change, biology and chemistry and all sorts of stuff, like providing feedback and awareness, are you guys interested in like the more explicit stimulation, like transcranial stuff going on right now with like the actual electrical stimulation?
So that's an intellectual interest, but not a product interest. I mean, for us, it's not about zapping your brain and changing it. It's about giving you feedback so you can understand yourself and get in touch with yourself more deeply. I'm very focused on the fact that building this technology, it's about expanding our humanity and expanding our awareness of our own humanity and our ability to sense, learn, discover the self, and then use that in meaningful ways. So it's not about a quick fix zap to the brain.
I've been doing meditation for like 5 years, and I think that just learned about your product from Newco like a couple of days ago. How are you marketing the product? Like you were trying to like teach like the people to like, hey, this is my product, learn to meditate, or hey, meditator, this is my product that will help you with. Like where are your efforts more? Trying to like penetrate the market, or just like piggyback on the new trend of meditation? Because I've seen ease has grown a lot, and mostly like mental training and stuff. So what is like what are your efforts focus on?
So the product works really well with both. So probably a larger part of our customer base is people who have never meditated before or just beginning their practice and trying to establish it, and they use Muse to come into it. And that's only a larger base because there are more of those people. Whereas people who already meditate love Muse because it gives you a new insight into your brain. As a meditator, you're a consciousness explorer. And so having a new mirror to understand the internal workings of your mind is pretty extraordinary. So we we serve both demographics. Yes.
I guess I'm more interested about the product base. So how exactly it works? So the tool basically is kind of getting the signal from your brain and be able to optimize the level, or how can you give some insight?
Sure. So there's sensors on the forehead here. These are EEG sensors on the forehead and behind the ears. Slips on just like a pair of glasses. and it tracks your brain while we meditate. And we have an algorithm that knows when you're in focused attention versus when your mind is wandering. So it sends your brain data to your smartphone or tablet, and there you're able to actually hear a soundscape that is your mind. So you hear when your mind is wandering, and you hear when you're focused. So you just put in a pair of headphones off of your iPhone or Android, and you can actually hear your mind. So you get the real-time feedback through your phone.
So how, like, I guess this is someone has to be kind of buy into the product in order to use it, but then to convince someone to use it, like, how you guys approach in terms of reaching out the customer? It's just people maybe just curious, try it, but then let's say I want my mom to try to use it, right? Because like my mom sometimes has anxiety. Okay, try it. Like my mom would be try once or twice, but not really. Like how long does the effect come into place, and then someone could be, oh, this is a really good product, and then a certain level of time that this kind of effect got wear out. So I'm just trying to know like the clinical trial in terms of time frame.
Sure. So we've done a number of studies with Muse. One at Baycrest Hospital, they looked at Muse users using Muse for 10 minutes a day for 6 weeks, and after that period of time, they saw an increase in calm, a decrease in somatic symptoms, so less headache, pain, nausea, and also an improvement in cognitive function as measured by the Stroop test. So that amount of time was effective. You want to do it sort of 10 minutes a day. But meditation, like anything else, you have to do regularly to see the benefit. You can't go to the gym 3 times and then expect a month later to still be strong and amazing. You learn a skill, but you have to be able to keep honing that skill to really retrain those neural pathways to change. Behavior is so hard to change, so you have to practice regularly to be able to change your behavior, which ultimately changes your neural pathways. And typically people who have a Muse meditate far more often than people who don't, because it gives you that feedback and it gives you a structure. So, there's practice reminders, you can see your progress, there are awards. We have a huge community called the Muse community where it's on Facebook, where people give each other feedback and support. So there's a lot of structure built inside of it to actually help you start and maintain your practice. I think we have time for one more question. Yes?
So your meditation, like, could you describe like what you do or how this product maybe has helped you, or if it has, or I just want to know how meditation is for you.
Sure. Yeah. So before making Muse as a meditation tool, I was a psychotherapist. I would be recommending meditation to my patients, and I had a really sucky meditation practice. I was one of those people who, as you can tell, loves to do everything, so my brain was always bouncing around trying to think about all the things I wanted to do very enthusiastically, and the act of sitting quietly really didn't resonate. So I teach meditation to my clients because I knew the benefits for the things they're coming in with, but I didn't do it myself. And then as we started building Muse as a meditation tool, and I started to use Muse in our very early versions to actually start to hone in and get the practice, it was like an unlock, like angels were singing. I describe it like when I was 15 and I would hear love songs on the radio and I'd be like, why does everybody sing about love? Like, what is this? More love songs, what? And then I was in love. And then I listened to my next love song on the radio and it was like, oh, I get it. And all I wanted to do was listen to love songs. That was the experience of finally getting meditation. I was like, oh, this is what everybody's talking about. Now I get it. And so now I have, of course, a regular meditation practice. I meditate every day, minimum 5 minutes, sometimes half an hour, sometimes twice a day. But at the moment, more than my seated practice is how it plays out in my daily life. So if I find myself getting a little bit tense, I'll do a breathing exercise to relax. If I find myself a little bit down, I will feel love from my heart. If I find myself about to talk to somebody and feel a little grumpy, I will imagine how much I love them and think about how much I love them, even if I've never met them before. So it just becomes a way of life that allows you to shift how you live in the world and hopefully amplify everybody else as you go. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you all for your awesomeness, and thank you for your shining faces shining back at me. I'm excited about what you're going to shine out into the world. Much love.